Good morning. What's up, everyone? This is Nick with Draftbit. George is back with me this week. How's it going, George?
Good. Happy to be back.
Yeah.
Excited.
You happy to be doing some video in English today?
Oh yeah, finally. For those who haven't followed, I've done a lot of French content for Draftbit over the last couple of weeks. So if you're French, or if you know, or if you speak French or understand French, check it out. There's a lot of content in YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that for you.
Wait, you're French?
Nah, I just fake the accent.
Yeah, so definitely check out George's content in French. It's awesome. And hello to all of our French users who are checking out Draftbit for the first time this week, thanks to George. If this is the first time you're joining us at Draftbit for a live stream office hours, we try to keep it pretty simple here. First, we'll show you kind of what's new at Draftbit this week. We'll take questions and comments and, just drop anything that you either want to see us do, questions you have for us, comments, shout outs. If you're streaming us on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, do us a favor and share out the link to your social media to let other people know that Draftbit's doing these cool live streams every week. Or even just drop a line in the chat and tell us where you're from. And
if you have a joke, if you have trivia, anything.
As long as they're not French jokes, because George is sensitive. I'm just kidding, especially if they're French jokes. Man, now I wish I had prepared a French joke.
Next week. Tune up for next week with a lot of French jokes.
Next week. I'm going to lock you out of the live stream. I'm just going to make it an hour-long stand-up show about the French.
It's going to be a roast. Sounds about right.
Yeah, so drop us a line in the chat. And after we kind of go through what's new and take questions and comments, we'll build some stuff. I've got a couple of things that I want to do today, and George is also going to show you some cool new Firebase stuff that we launched this week as well. So I'm just going to switch this on here. So if you're not familiar, what's new at Draftbit, I'm basically just reading off of this announcement post that our teammate Aman posts every week with a roundup of all the new features and cool stuff that's going on at Draftbit. So first thing is that we want to shout out one of our community members, Justin, who's also a Draftbit expert, wrote this cool guide on how to handle date formats from Firebase. So this is a really cool guide, especially if you're using Firebase. Go check it out. Thank you, Justin. Justin is a Draftbit expert. He's available to hire to help you work in your Draftbit apps. Also, if you haven't caught it, George did a really cool 5-part live stream with our friends at No Code France. And this was a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, a couple of weeks ago. I forget now.
Like a month. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it was a little while ago, but not that long ago. And we finally got those videos uploaded to YouTube. And so George rebuilt this really cool app, French app called Le Pouce. Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, close enough.
Close enough. Okay.
Yeah, that works.
So yeah, we don't have it translated to English, but if you speak French, definitely watch like a whole app being rebuilt in Draftbit. It's pretty cool.
I should do one shout out. The guy you see here, like right next to me on the screen, is Alex, and he's kind of I don't know the right word, but the kind of leader or founder of the No Code France community, and they have a very active Slack community. It's a lot for not like we have a Draftbit channel in the Slack. So if you're French and you want to be participating there, go there. But they also have about every other no code tool, the very active community. I think it's one of the biggest no code community in the world. But if I'm like, prove me wrong. If you know of other bigger community, I think they're about close to like 5,000 members in that Slack, and it's not just the number of members, but it's pretty active. So yeah, shout out to them. They're doing a great job. And let me know if you know other community in other countries or other languages. I'd be curious.
Yes, I'll second that. No Code France is one of the biggest no code communities in the world for sure. And Alex is a great dude. Okay, what else did we do this week? Oh, this one's really cool. And I'm actually just going to click on it because it's kind of got one line in Amon's update. But if you're familiar with Draftbit, we've been doing a lot of content with using a Xano backend. And so this new guide that Amon wrote, which is Passwordless Authentication, is a really cool guide because I think it plays really well on mobile because this is like an SMS one-time password. So there's no email password involved. It's just phone number and a one-time password, and it works really well on mobile. I'll probably be rebuilt during one of the few free times that I get to do videos. I'll probably try to do this live on video or at least recorded video. But I can't say enough cool things about. I know that the Xano folks turned on a few early access features for us to get this guide across the finish line. There's a Twilio integration involved. There's a lot of really cool moving parts on the back end that allow you to create users and authenticate users using just a SMS one-time password. So if you want one-time password for your app, I can't recommend just going through this guide enough. It's available in tutorials in the Draftbit community. Nice job, Amon, on that one.
Yeah, the guide
that took a lot of time.
Yeah, it's very complete.
Yes, it is very complete. You may even be able to teach yourself Xano by following this guide.
Very true.
Okay. What else? This is kind of a fun one. For better or for worse, I feel like a lot of people are trying to make like TikTok clones on Draftbit. And so our video component used to be kind of like a standard width height video component, but now you can control more of the UI or the layout of video components. So now you can do things like, like full screen video components. So if you do want, like a TikTok-y looking or Instagram story looking video feed, I think you can probably do that with our video component now. So that video component's been upgraded a little bit. And then
I think we still default to Big Buck Bunny. Like it might still, it's an internal thing. Like I think we set that up. My personal belief is that that's the reason that video is so popular. I could be wrong there, but I think that's the video that was used in a lot of the early HTML5 demonstration of the video element. That's what I believe. I could, again, prove me wrong, please. Enlighten me with more knowledge if you have it for people listening. But I think that's where it comes from. And so everybody kind of copied that. And then I think it made its way to the demo for Expo. And I think that's where we got it from, and like on and on. So, a little bit of internet history here.
Yes. It's like the same people people's headshots that you get from Unsplash that make it into basically every startup's like pitch deck and like MVP of their whoever those people are on Unsplash. Like we all know you.
You everywhere.
If I see you in a coffee shop somewhere, I'll be like, hey, you're the guy from Unsplash, the hipster with the hat.
I know 2 or 3 of those guys. They used to work at eBay New York, and one time that project, they came to the office to take pictures of people just to do like mock data. And so now I recognize those people that, so like every time I go online and I see those faces, it's kind of funny.
I love that.
So it works. Yeah, that was a good project. That was an interesting idea, a good project.
And I guess we've also made a bunch of updates to API responses, flat list, and scroll view components. I don't actually know. Do you know off the top of your head what about these we've improved? This might be related.
I could honestly, I should know that. I kind of there's a lot. It's not far for me to find out.
That's all right. They're better. Things are always improving in Draftbit. That's a fair enough answer.
Yeah, we had some, I guess they're mostly like bug fixing. So I'm looking at some of those changing now. We had the kind of association between the value of global variable sometime will crash. Anyway, kind of like bug fixes. So overall, it should be more stable, I guess.
Yes. One other thing that I wanted to shout out, I meant to post this on our Twitter yesterday, but there's like a really cool conversation going on in the community right now that I would love to draw people's attention to around like, how do you explain that you're using no-code tools or low-code tools, especially Draftbit, to people that you want to have invested in your startup? And so this has been it's been really enlightening for me as I think about app startups. So if you're a founder or if you're an investor, or if you've worked on mobile app development teams that were venture backed, I'd love to like hear your thoughts in this thread. This is kind of like late breaking stuff, but it's a really interesting conversation. And then I think the final thing we want to talk about is, George, you have some new functionality for Firebase users that you want to show off. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's how do you say, right off the press? Is that the expression? Like it's brand new. We just pushed something this morning or last night. So it's very new, which also means not everybody will have access to it just yet. We're still doing a little bit of internal testing, but I wanted to like do a little sneak peek for people, particularly folks who are interested in integrating with Firebase. So maybe I can share my screen. Let me try that.
Yeah, you have to tell Restream what window you want to share, and then I can bring it up.
I think you should see it right now. Whoa, sorry about that.
Live streamception.
Okay, so just I can see myself now. So Nick, tell me if there's a weird thing or if you can see my screen. But
sure.
A little bit of context. Draftbit, you can do your front end, and we integrate with a lot of different backend services. Firebase is one of them. We talked a lot about Xano and Backendless and Superbase and all of those guys. So for Firebase, we have more how to say, like more deeper kind of integration with them. So we that's how to say it. So we're not just using the REST API like we do for all the other backend. It's way more like deeply integrated into the platform. So I'll show you a little bit. People hopefully who care about Firebase have already seen that, but there is a way to just add your custom kind of Firebase service the same way you could add any of the other kind of REST API service. So here I'll show you an example. Like I've set up my Firebase, and you give it like your code snippet, so your configuration credentials, service account, and stuff like that. And then eventually it'll just fetch all your collection and understand all the schemas and all that. So that's just how you connect Firebase. So it should be pretty straightforward here. You can see I have two collection, authors and posts. So that's if I now go to my Firebase, you can see that I have this kind of database with those two collections I just mentioned. Post and authors. So post is essentially going to be like, like your Facebook post, like, hello, how are you doing? Blah, 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 like a little status update. And if you notice here, I've added like an author field. So that's, I'm the author of that post, but I don't necessarily want to put all the information about myself here and have to duplicate that every single time I write a post. So what I want to do, which is pretty standard kind of way to approach it in software engineering, but like you want essentially just a reference to another collection or another table, which in this case is authors. And then there I can have one entry for that specific author. So in that case, it's me, George, and I can give it a name. I can give it email, just try that. Okay, so you can add all the information you want, and you only have to do it once. Oh, did I misspell email? Ooh, misspelled email.
Oh.
All right. Let's try that again. Okay, so here it is. So I only have to do it once, and then ideally when I iterate through all those posts, I'll just want to retrieve that information from that same spot every time. So that's pretty straightforward on the Firebase side. On the Draftbit side, yeah, I started a brand new screen here. What we were doing up until now is that we let you kind of add a Firebase database at the screen level, which is slightly different from how we were doing, other maybe kind of REST API. For those familiar, we had like a fetch component that lets you do like a query or a REST API. But for Firebase, we were doing it at the screen level, which is good, and that works, and you can use that right now. There were a couple of limitations with that. The first one is that you can only have one one query to either a collection or database per screen. So it's you were a little bit limited up until now. And the other thing is, because you can only have one, or even if we add the ability to have more than one, they were always at the screen level. So they were not, you would not be able to like nest one inside the other. So you were not able to do, let me get all the posts, and then for each post, let me get the author of that specific post. So that's something you can do in the fetch component for REST API, but it was a little challenging to do that at Firebase. So we've now fixed that, or we're in process of fixing it. Again, this is a sneak peek. You might not see that in your Draftbit today, but it's coming. So here's what it looks like. I'm not gonna do anything on the screen level, and I'm just gonna add a brand new component called Firebase Collection. So you guys haven't seen that before. So now this acts a little bit like a fetch. So I have this component. I can say, all right, fetch all my posts. And you can see we still do like the where condition, the order by, if you want to do like a date and stuff like that. So that's what I've always been able to do with Firebase. So it's still there. You can do that. But then inside that Firebase collection, I can now put a list, and I'm going to essentially iterate through those results, and I'm going to display what's in them. So for example, I'm looking through all the posts. I want to show the title. So I'm going to show title right here, Hello World. So I've been able to go here, iterate, get the first one, and show the title. So that's pretty cool already. Now, the really cool thing is that what if I want to show information about that author? So the way I can do it is have a nested Firebase document component. And here, I'll tell it, all right, now go to the author collection. And for the ID, you've noticed like this one is called George, and the ID, which is this thing of the author collection, is also called George. So that's how I do the kind of connection between the two. Yeah, I'll do that small note after. So for the ID, I'm going to pass it the author. And now, inside that, I can show whatever information I want. So in this case, let's show the name of the author. Name. Boom. And I'll do one more, the one we really just created, the email. Let's see if I can do email as well. All right, email. Oh, where? Oh, did he not save my email? Oh, let's give it a try. Okay, you know what might be going on? I changed that. I changed the schema after I already added it. So it's possible that I need to refresh it. Now I see the author field, like it went from 1 to 2. So you only had the name. Now, actually, I can even look at it. Now he has the name and the email. So that's fixed. So now I can reference it. Name and email. And that's how you fix that issue. Okay. And here it is. I know it doesn't look like much, but honestly, you're now able to nest your Firebase call and reference a collection inside another collection. So that's really cool. Two small note I want to make. The first one is like, I've been using the name as a document ID just because it makes the demo a little bit easier. But you can also always use like the auto ID and not have to worry about that. And same thing, as long as you reference that in the post, you'll be able to connect the two. So you can do that. And the second note I want to make is that the next step of those improvements is that we want to make it so you can, instead of just having to put the name here yourself, we're going to try to use the reference, which is another type in Firebase, as you can see here. So I want to be able to say, to say more explicitly what the reference is, as opposed to just having to match the kind of string. So in this case, I would say author George. So that we're working on. It doesn't work just yet. It's going to take us a little bit of work, but eventually the plan is to get there and be able to just use a reference. In the meantime, feel free to just use the string yourself. And when we've made this improvement, you can always like do that little change. It should be pretty straightforward. That's it. Firebase collection and Firebase document. For those who've been using Firebase for a while, that should be pretty exciting.
Bravo.
Thanks. Well, bravos to engineering team. They've been specifically to Alan, who put a lot of work into that. And so that's really glad we got that out now.
Yes. On that note, if you are excited about this, please share on your social media, hey, Draftbit just implemented this or is implementing this. Thanks to the engineering team. We're not above shout outs on social media. They really help the team.
Love those. Yeah.
Love those. George, not to put you on the spot, but it feels like Firebase is getting pretty close to being a public facing feature. Is there like how are you feeling about it, or do you want to whet people's appetite for when the general public can get access to this feature?
Yeah, it's a great question. So for context, the way we've been building this feature and a few others is that we have that private beta thing going on. So we have a subset of users that have requested it, that we've invited, and they help us test out that feature. And like you said, we've been iterating on it for a few months, and we've added feature, just try to figure out with the help of the community, like what's our MVP for that feature? Like what is the thing we really need to be able to get value out of Firebase? And honestly, after this change, the Firebase, those two components I just demoed, and the ref thing I mentioned as well, once we have those, we feel that we're in a good spot. You can start using that Firebase integration and do 95% of what you might want to do with it. That might be, and if there are still like edge cases of things that we can do, like we'll still consider it. That doesn't mean we're going to completely stop working on it, but the goal is to open up that private community to the rest of all the Draftbit users. Probably at this point, coming weeks, if even, like it might be even shorter than that now that those two are like almost done. So it's coming very soon. Keep an eye on it. And as soon as you get a chance to test it, whether you're in the beta or not right now, give us some feedback. Tell us what you think. Show us what you've done with it. We're always curious to hear or to see like use cases. So coming up.
Awesome. So in that vein, Mark and Art are in the YouTube comments applying some peer pressure. They want to know when other features of Firebase could potentially be implemented. So I think the ones that were called out were the live chat server stuff. And then probably, I know that there was some interest in Firebase cloud messaging as well. And so before I'm not going to put George on the spot and say, hey, when are we going to get those things, or if we get these things? But just to kind of emphasize what George just said, like the priority is to give the general public access to the stuff that we've built in Firebase so far, and to basically unblock all the use cases that are now possible with Firebase in Draftbit. That's not to say that we're done developing support for Firebase, but here's what I would say. Firebase is a very complex product. There's a lot of things in there to support. And I would tell you all that, like, what Draftbit cares the most about, the features that we build next, are highly dependent on the signal that we pay the most attention to is what apps are people building right now? What do those apps need? Like what would unblock the real apps from being published to the app stores? And so, like, no one more than me thinks that, like, having support for Firebase chat is like something cool to add to Draftbit. Like, I totally agree with that. But am I going to use chat tomorrow? Is my app blocked by not having Firebase chat? It's not. If I'm being honest, there's other things probably that Draftbit needs that would help me with my app in the more near term. So this is a pitch to everyone who's making feature requests of the small and early stage Draftbit product and engineering teams, is like, build it and push the platform, and then the more blocked you are, the closer it is your app is to completion, is the way to sort of like get the product team's attention. And like, also, be honest with us about what is a nice to have versus what is a need to have, because there's a lot of need to haves that aren't as sexy as the nice to have Firebase chat feature. Is that a fair statement, George? I don't want to speak on behalf of you guys, but I also think it's like, there's so many things that people want you guys to build, right?
Yeah, no, that's very fair. We definitely want to hear from the community, like, in those terms. So I would say we've done a good amount of work around Firebase authentication in custom code. So if that's the kind of other feature from Firebase that you're looking for, we already have like videos and kind of some documentation around that. So have a look at that. That can be very helpful. For the live chat, I would want to know, are people referencing a specific feature? I think you can do the live chat right now with the database. As a matter of fact, I kind of studied to do an app like that. And I would even say that that's the big benefit of Firebase, is that because we have this deeper integration with Firebase, it's essentially real time. So we've seen that in previous videos, previous office hours, but if you make a change on the Firebase side, it'll reflect on your app without having to reload or do anything. So that real time is really cool for chat. Obviously, that's kind of what you want. So I was able to go pretty far. I should finish it up and demo it to the community. That'd be pretty helpful. But so you should be able to give that a try. And if not, yeah, like, let me know. I'm curious to hear.
That's right. I totally forgot that you did that. And yeah, Firebase real time is all you need for that. I'm not even sure. Did you even have any custom code in that implementation? I'm trying to remember.
At the time, I had custom code for the authentication, but now that we have like almost absolutely no code for authentication, I might just switch that code to that. And for the chat aspect itself, no, I don't think I had, because, like, honestly, it's very, depend how sophisticated you want it to be. But if you think of like a simple chat, like, text box, you input a message and just the message are being shown in the order. That's essentially just like iterating through your Firestore database. It's pretty straightforward, and because it's real time, you don't have to do much more than that. So yeah, I'll try to finish that up, and on the user side, like, you guys should also give it a try. Tell us if you're blocked.
Sweet. Okay, cool. Thanks, guys, for all the input. Really appreciate your contributions. I'm going to switch gears here and jump into a little bit of building. A couple of things that I wanted to try this week. George, you're welcome to stick around, or if you have better things to do, feel free to drop off. But just to sort of set the stage, if this is your first live stream, I have this app that I'm kind of building live in front of you all. The concept of the app is like a Foursquare for coffee. So the idea is there are all these coffees that exist in the world, and as I try them, I can use this app to search for them, the name of the coffee is, roaster or whatever, and then kind of like check them in. So I can say, I tried this coffee, I liked it, scale of 1 to 5, here are my tasting notes, etc. And then like submit those check-ins to the server. And then I can also kind of go back and revisit what I have tried and, just kind of look back on what I've done and do some editing and things like that. So today, I'll just pull this app up.
So how many cups of coffee do you have a day? Like how many check-ins are you gonna make every day? I'm scared to ask.
You should be scared to ask. How many cups of coffee do I drink every day? Anywhere from like 2 to 4. I actually that's cutting back, honestly.
4 is cutting back. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it is. I used to be like 1 to 2 pots a day, but I've recently, actually, one of the like most recent developments in my life is I'm now a subscriber to this new company called Cometeer. If anyone's, I'm about to nerd out on coffee, so I might go down a rabbit hole for a second. But these guys are like brand new, crazy, like tons of patents on this technology, and it's basically like the coffee is actually pre-brewed and then flash frozen before it has a chance to kind of get old. So it's like brewed immediately and then frozen immediately, and then they ship these pods to you on dry ice. And it's like $1 a pod, which is like totally reasonable for a really good coffee.
Yeah.
And then what I do in the morning is I just put one of these pods in a cup with some hot water, and that's my fresh coffee.
Wow. And the quality is good?
The quality is for me, it was the selling point, because what happens is I'm big on like buying fresh beans. Sorry, this page animation is really distracting, so I'm just going to turn this off for a second.
It's cool though.
You can buy the best beans in the world, which is something that I was always into already. But then in order to get the most out of a fresh bean, it's kind of like buying a prime steak or whatever, and then overcooking it or undercooking it, or, not cooking it on hot enough temperature. And you have all these other variables in the equation of brewing coffee, like how clean is your equipment, brew time, brew method, like all these things. And so what this thing takes like all of those things out of the equation, because they've already brewed really great coffee on top of the line equipment. And so you're getting coffee that's already brewed, and all you have to do is basically dilute it with hot water. And so it's as if you're buying a cup of coffee from a coffee shop, and you can't mess it up because the only thing you're doing is adding hot water. So, and they're the best roasters in the world. Like I signed up for this because I saw that they got a roaster called Counterculture, which, like, depending on depending on your preferences, like Counterculture is the best roaster in the United States. So yeah, it's really good. And I think their platform might still be invite only. So if you want an invite to Cometeer, I have some invites.
Ooh, I'm gonna hit you up.
Reach out to me on the Draftbit community, and I'll send you an invite to Cometeer. I'm pimping out someone else's business on Draftbit's live stream.
That's good.
The connectivity is there's all these great roasters, and I love trying these coffees, and they're awesome.
That's cool.
So I wouldn't do a check-in for every cup of coffee. I would do a check-in every time I tried a new coffee for the first time, or if I'm revisiting one after several months, and I want to compare how I rated it now versus how I rated it 3 months ago.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Our friend Art on the comment is asking if that's comparable to Fields Coffee. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, Phil's is a coffee roaster. So they're like, so in Chicago we have like Intelligentsia or Big Shoulders, or roasters like that. Yeah. Phil's is like, in terms of quality of the beans, is like middle of the road. It's not bad, but it's not the type of coffee that you would find on a Cometeer. And that's not a slight against Phil's. Phil's is an amazing brand for other reasons, but a coffee purist would not try fills and be like, yeah, this is, you know, a 92, 93, 94 rated cup of coffee. And that's okay. The coffee is a whole spectrum. And you know, like as an example, I'm a coffee purist. I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I just think it's wonderful in a pinch. So everyone's got different tastes and preferences. It's just fills wouldn't like. Anyway, coffee's crazy. Coffee's crazy.
Man, I gotta say, I moved to Massachusetts a few months ago now, and Dunkin' Donuts are everywhere. So whether or not I like it, that's all we've been able to like drink for a while. So
yeah, that's right. You're in like Dunkin' Donuts, like Connecticut, Massachusetts is like New York is like Dunkin' Donuts Mecca.
Yeah. Well, the first one was in near Boston, right? I think the first Dunkin'.
Was it?
Yeah, I think there is this store. Every time we walk in front of it, my father-in-law is like, "This is the first Dunkin' Donuts ever created in the United States." So either he's just making fun of me and he's saying that literally every single Dunkin' Donuts, or maybe it's true. It's one or the other.
That's funny. That's really funny. Yeah, it sounds like there's a little bit less lore around the first Dunkin' Donuts than there is around the first Starbucks. Which, if you ever go to Seattle, definitely go visit the original Starbucks.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Sounds good.
All right, should we do some Draftbit stuff?
Let's build.
Cool.
Let's build an app.
So, all right, so we have like 20 minutes left in this live stream. This time flew by. And so the three main things that I wanted to do were one, last week we spent some time building this new check-in screen because now we have radio buttons and radio button groups. Our picker is new and improved, and some other things. So I think before I do anything else, I'm going to get this up and running because I don't think that's going to take a ton of extra time. And then the two new things that I'm going to try and get to before this live stream is over, maybe I'll go a little bit over, are one, I wanted to show everyone that loading state work that I did this week because I think that's really fun. So basically, like when you submit something on this screen, the button switches to a loading state while the API request is processing, which makes the user experience kind of cool. And it's something that I kind of messed around with, and it's not that hard to do. So we'll try and get that working. And then if there's time, I don't think there's going to be, if there's time, kind of the main screen in my app is this search coffee screen. And so the problem with it right now is that that results only show up in this screen if there's search parameters put into the text input field. So it basically just renders a blank screen until I start typing, which is fine. That's how we have it built. But I would love for this screen to display like some sort of featured list when the state of this text input is empty. Because I just think that would be like a really cool experience to just not land on a blank screen, land on a screen that already has like maybe top 10 most popular coffees right now or search. So and I would do that with conditional display based on the truthiness of the state of this input field. Yeah.
That sounds great. You know, what have you considered doing like recently searched? So I'm now like brainstorming this for your app. I don't know if that's a use case. Do you find yourself searching for the same thing usually? Or?
Yes, probably. Yeah, or like popular near me or something like that. I don't even know how you would structure that, but yeah. Cool. Okay, so let me just edit what's the margin on these things? Okay. All right, so I think this is good enough for now. So I need to go back through my flow and coffee item new. Actually, let me make sure the screen is in my, so I've got the screen built mostly. I need to add a screen to this stack. Oh, is it already in here? Coffee item new. Oh yeah, it's already in here. I originally had a new check-in screen that I'm not abandoning. I'm just kind of upgrading this screen. So new check-in. So I basically need to swim back upstream of my flow here and navigate to this new screen from coffee item new. So let's just do this from this button. I want to navigate to new check-in, copy. Okay. And then here, I need to submit this post request, but I think I need to edit the post request first. So I think I have let's just see if I already have this rate new coffee post. So previously it had all of these props. And so I think I need to edit this post request.
Because you don't want to send it all?
Some of these things are not applicable. Like at some point, so I have like rate. So rating is one that I do have. So that's the coffee rating. So that's the value of the radio button group. Brew method is not one that I have in here, so I need to edit for that. Tasting notes I have, or no, I don't. Yeah, so I just need to edit the body of this post request.
Yeah.
This is like not super clean because I'm probably let me open up my Airtable real quick as well. I should just walk through creating a new post request, but that's in the docs. So I think this endpoint is now called check-ins, not even coffees anymore. I must not have been using this. And so we have I need to pass in the world ID, the coffee name. Those come from navigation parameters. And then I wanted to add brew method, rating, and tasting notes. Right.
What's world ID?
Is the ID of the coffee. So it's like the analogy to Foursquare would be like this would be a location on a map.
Yeah.
So I'm checking in like I'm not creating the coffee in the database every time I check it in. What I'm creating is the check-in to some property, which is like essentially like a static property, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. I was curious, so, where do you call it word? Is that like a industry term for it, or?
No, I think I just couldn't think of a better term for like a coffee bird. I think originally I just had coffees, and then that's what I was calling check-ins. So like I just kind of it's not as clean. At some point I'm gonna like move this whole app over to like a Xano or something like that, and then probably just have a chance to redo all my schema. So I need world. I think I'm doing this right. Am I doing this right?
Do you know you can to some extent, copy paste that JSON from the API doc? Do you know
I did know that.
Okay. Yeah. It's not necessarily easier, just kind of mentioning it.
No, you're right. It is easier if you want, if you need the correct syntax. Because like right now I was looking at this and I'm like, is this a string or, and I forgot. So why don't I go demonstrate that? So check-ins table, create a record. And so this is the syntax. I'm not using this entire syntax, but
yeah. So, yeah, the reason I mentioned it's not always easier is because now you kind of have to go and turn everything into a variable. So it takes a little bit of effort, but
yeah, but it's still net easier, I think. I'll just grab this as the test value.
Oh, little note for people who run into that before. I think we had a situation where as you're defining variable, if in your app you were making a call to that endpoint, and if you omitted or if you did not specify value for those variable, I think it was using the default variable. So we're sending the default one when you did not specify a new one. So now we do a better job at this. And like if you in your code, if you don't specify the variable, we don't send anything, which is what you want. So kind of a useful little fix right there.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm just putting in test values. I don't why I have other fields in here. Don't I brew method? Why don't I see brew method in here? Oh, that's weird. Wait.
Yeah, that is strange.
Oh, is it because I don't have?
Oh, don't tell me it's because it's empty.
How does Airtable get fooled by their own API? That better not be the case.
Testing note.
Yeah, I'll see it. Maybe it needs to be in.
Can you put it in the first one? I'm curious to know if they you know I'm going with that.
Yeah. Just so you all know what we're laughing about. Like, there it is.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. So little like sidebar here for a second. So Airtable's API is actually really difficult to work with from the standpoint of if you don't have the fields, if you don't have values in the fields for your first record, then Draftbit will often not recognize that field in the API at all. And so the trick is always make sure that the first value in your request, the first record in your request has values for all the fields. However, we were told this week, well, why don't you just use Airtable's metadata API? And then this is like a more sophisticated way to detect the presence of fields and things like that. However, you would assume that Airtable would use its own metadata API when constructing these API docs. But clearly it didn't, because its own API documentation got fooled by the same thing that we've encountered many times, which is that there was no value for record.
Right.
And so its API doc didn't detect that field existed. We're wagging our fingers at you, Airtable.
If you work at Editable, reach out. We want to hear your side of the story. I'd be curious.
Seems fishy.
That's interesting, though, yeah.
Okay, so let's add.
So for the user, I guess the TLDR is if you don't see a field there, try to put some value in that column and refetch and see if they appear. That might be a good way to fix it.
And what else did I want to submit? I have world ID, tasting notes, rating, brew method. I think that's it. Let's valid structure. Let's test it. This might need to be a string.
I think that's supposed to be transformed automatically, but it's a fair thing to try.
Should these all be not strings?
I don't think you need them to be string, right? I don't think it hurts when they are, but can you look at the JSON thing? Oh, well, you don't have the actual variable. Oh, you're looking at the body preview. Sorry.
Yeah. I have these open close brackets that I shouldn't have.
You're right. That's probably not helping.
The only thing I can think is maybe this only. Let's try making some of these things strings and see what happens. Nope, that's not it.
Could we take a look at your JSON again if you're not trying something else? Records, fields. One sec. Fields. I'm making sure you got all the. Do you want to try to debug maybe? And like, if you open the console, and we can maybe try to see what error you got here.
Sure.
Right. So you can click the thing on the top, like the little forbidden sign, just to erase everything. Right, and yeah, this one. Okay, and then try to retest thing. If you, yeah.
How did I end up with this?
The little blue icon with next to yeah. So the other one, yeah, exactly. Go to network. Nothing. Can you click on the GraphQL thing you see in the list? Yeah. Either one. Open that up. What do you say? Oh, it's the same. It doesn't say anything more. Unpressable. 422. That's strange. It's a pretty straightforward thing we've done 1,000 times. What's going on here?
All right, let me.
You want to select me the URL of your app? Maybe I can take a look in parallel.
Sure.
Thank you. Oh, are those those are not supposed to be IDs, right? The name, rating, roast, and type. Are they supposed to be? Do you know what I'm getting at?
No.
In your Airtable, are they referencing? Oh, I guess. Oh wait, sorry, I'm not even looking at the right.
Hopefully, I have brew methods, camel case, tasting notes, camel case, world uppercase.
So none of those are. Yeah, none of those are referencing another, right? Another table. Is that correct?
Oh no, I think this might be the issue. My rating was a string. Let's just see if this was the problem. I don't know why, but
that could be. Yay!
Hey,
Nice.
When in doubt, it's user error. Okay, I got a good endpoint.
Nice.
Isn't that fun? Isn't that fun, guys?
A little debugging on a Friday morning.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my brew method, I'm getting from the picker value. My rating, I'm getting from the rating radio button group. World ID, I'm getting as a navigation parameter. And tasting notes. Okay, that's set up. And then I want to navigate to my check-ins, which is a different part of my navigator. So I need to go to, I think it's my activity. Okay. All right, if this works on the first try, it's amazing. So nobody shoot me, but let's try this.
I think I'm on a drum roll or something. Let's find out.
All right. Columbia, let's check decaf. Okay, that works. Check in.
There we go.
Oh, I must have had some weird, this is old, but this is a little check that I put into this screen to make sure that I'm getting the ID of the coffee. Right. Somehow it's making the tasting notes, but some tasting notes. Give it a 4. Brew method. Oh, there we go. You guys can't see this, but I'm
exactly. We can see by you having a drop down. Yeah.
And submit.
Oh, okay. That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Worked on the first try. Okay.
Wait, so it showed up on the list. Oh, can you check Airtable? Did it make its way there? I mean, obviously it did, but it would be cool to see.
Yep, there it is.
Where is it? Oh, yeah. Some tasting note, espresso, 4 stars. Man, perfect.
Wow.
First try,
okay.
Perfectly on time.
Beautiful.
Excellent.
Oh man, now I really want to just demo really quickly the loading state thing.
Yeah, do it.
That's right.
Also, pointing out to people who have been using Draftbit for a while, it used to be changing when you did something on one page and you will come back to a main page where that item will be in a list. It will not always necessarily click on refresh. And as you saw with Nick's demo, it did something on a page, came back to that list view, and the thing was already there. It was already refetched. So that's very cool.
Yes. Okay, so I don't know if you all noticed because it was quick, but when I submitted the check-in, I clicked the button and then you just kind of wait for a second. And then once the post request is processed, then it does the next action in the chain, which is to navigate to the list page. So I thought it'd be great to make the state of this button change so that someone wasn't repeatedly tapping it while the API request was processing. And so I came up with this idea to use device variables to indicate the state of the request. And so this is like, I think I was gonna spend like 5 minutes on this, but let's just call this Submit check-in is loading. Ideally, this would be like a page variable, but we don't have page variables right now. So this works just fine with global variables. And basically this is a global variable that defines is the API request to submit a new check-in loading true or false. And so by default, I'm going to leave it empty, which is it evaluates to false in JavaScript. And so is loading is false. That's the first thing we do. The next thing we do is I'm going to basically change the state of this button or this variable a couple of times. So the first thing I'm going to do is, so we just constructed this API request to submit the API and then navigate. So on tap, the first thing I'm going to do is change the state of the button. So I'm going to set global variable, submit checking is loading. I'm just going to set it to true. You can honestly give it any string because any string is going to evaluate to true. And I'll show you why I say that in a minute. And that's the first thing that I'm going to do when I click the button. The next thing I'm going to do is process the API request. And then once the API request is done processing, I'm going to change that variable back to false. Set global variable. I'm just going to do this. This ended up being the best, just an empty string so that it sets it back to false, empty. And I'm going to do that immediately before I navigate away from the screen. And so now, oh, sorry, that's only part of it. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to duplicate this button. So I'm going to have a second, oops, I'm going to have a second version of this button. Whoops. So I think this was like 10, 30, 10. And I want to set this to null, but I don't think that works. So I just give it a space. And I'm going to make it disabled and loading, which looks like that. And so now I'm just going to use the global variable to define which version of the button to display. So I'm going to display the submit button when is loading is false. And I'm going to display the loading state of the button when this global variable is true. And that's it. So let's go through the flow again. Hopefully this API processes sufficiently slowly. Check this coffee in. Okay, you ready? This might happen quick, so just watch me. Here we go. Drum roll, please.
Whoa! See that? I saw that loading. I saw it.
That's sweet.
That's sweet. Very sweet. It's very, very nice. Yeah.
And that's it.
That's awesome. And that behavior, the thing you just did by using a global variable, I'm going to do a shout out to Art, who I think is listening right now. He was able to use that same pattern to do a bunch of stuff, like showing a model on the page and like doing another model on top of it, and then removing the first model, essentially doing a lot of interaction on the screen just by setting true and false on a global variable and using conditional display to show or hide something. So it's awesome. Great demo.
Yes. Maybe I'm gonna, since Art is putting us on the spot constantly in this stream, I'm gonna put Art on the spot and say, Art, come on the live stream and show us the stuff that you built, or build something in front of us. Maybe you'll come on office hours with us one day.
Yeah.
And on that note, or if you, okay, I'm gonna come up with another really esoteric reference, but if you all are Top Gear fans, does anyone watch that car show, Top Gear? Anyone? And on that bombshell, have a great week.
That sounds good.
Thanks, George, for spending another hour with me. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Sure. We will catch up with you. I am potentially going to have a special guest on the live stream next week who's going to show us the app that they built in Draftbit. So you might get a break from watching me build stuff, which I think everyone would welcome. Yes. All right.
Sounds great.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next week.